Hey guys, it's Justine here from I Should Read That, and today I am bringing you my December TBR. So once again, if you haven't seen my wintry recommendations video, I am currently in my parents' place. I haven't quite figured out a good place to film that's nice and quiet, so the light in here isn't very good and you'll get some cats doing some fun stuff in the background. Just, it is what it is. So anyway, the month of December is a really interesting reading month every year for a couple of reasons. First of all, there's not a lot of stuff that comes out in December, so it's a good time to catch up on new releases that I have missed. It is also the last month of the year, obviously, so hi Daxie, I tend to pick up a lot of short things so that I can sort of get my Goodreads challenge up as high as possible, and I have read a lot of stuff this year. It's going to be a record-breaking year, I think, for the number of books that I've read, so I'm going to try to push that as much as possible. And also it is Christmas and my family are all incredibly bookish, so we tend to give each other loads and loads of books for Christmas. There's usually a Waterstones gift card involved as well, so I will be receiving some books in December that I will want to hop on right away. So it's going to be a really fun month, and because of that I actually have quite a small and possibly achievable TBR, unlike usual because my TBRs tend to be massive and ridiculous and I never ever complete them. So now that Dax has made herself comfortable behind my head, let's dive in. So I have two books that I'm planning on finishing that I was hoping to finish yesterday, which was the 30th of November. Today is the 1st of December, and I just didn't get around to it. I will talk about this more in my monthly wrap-up video, but I have been so exhausted this month. I don't know what is going on, if it's pandemic stress or leftovers from election stress or what is happening, but I've just been exhausted. So I just conked out for a good portion of yesterday evening and didn't read it. So I do have some carryovers for the month. The first being The Seep by Channa Porter. I was like, this will be a nice short book and I will blast through it and be able to finish it for November. The first part is true, I just didn't happen to finish it for this month. So I am currently exactly halfway through this novella and it is really good, but it is super trippy and weird. So The Seep is basically about the softest alien invasion that has ever happened. So we follow a character named Trina and her wife Deba, and they are living through this alien invasion by these creatures called the Seep, or this invasion is called the Seep. So basically they're sort of like formless beings that want to make life on Earth better, and they kind of get into the water supply and everyone essentially becomes not infected but sort of like almost like high off of the seep, and the world completely changes. So people can kind of do whatever they want. They quit their jobs to pursue, you know, other hobbies, but things like literature and performance are kind of dying because the only way that people really consume art is through the seep, which kind of has the psychedelic effects. And Trina is getting real sick of it. She is very much missing the old days, and her wife decides that through the seep she wants to, this is really weird but you're gonna have to stick with me on this, she decides she wants to experience being a child and basically being reborn. So she's going to essentially start her life over again from childhood, and she wants Trina to like mother her as like the ultimate show of love, and Trina's like, no, that's weird. So her wife leaves her to become a baby. And Trina basically descends into alcoholism and just sadness. But one day she runs into this young boy and she thinks that she can save him. This is really good so far. It's really, really interesting. It's a fascinating book. If you don't like weird sci-fi, this is not going to be one for you. But if you like things like Jeff Vandermeer, especially sort of Annihilation Jeff Vandermeer, this might be something for you. He actually blurbed the book, so that makes a lot of sense. But it's a really weird one. I am really, really enjoying it. There's something that's so mind-bending and interesting about it that I feel like I haven't experienced in my reading in a long time, and I feel like this may trigger a bit of a sci-fi binge for me, which I'm really looking forward to because I haven't read sci-fi in ages. The next book that I have that I am currently in the middle of, I thought I could get there. I thought I just couldn't. It's a lot to deal with. This is Helter, Skelter by Vincent Bulgozzi, I believe. So this is the true story of the Manson family and the murders that they committed as told by the prosecutor on the case. It's a really interesting book. It's very, very well written. It is very well narrated, but oh my god, there's so much information that is being thrown at you. I've been knitting a lot, as you guys probably know. So I've been listening to this while I'm knitting, which I realize is just like complete like juxtaposition, but whatever. And I listened to like 8 hours of it while knitting the other day, and I was like, I can't keep going. There's so much information and so much horrible information as well. But it is really good. It's really interesting. I want to, because I have an interest in true crime. I've been one of the women who has gotten really into true crime podcasts, and I wanted to read some true crime books. But as I read Killing for Company a couple months ago, I found that it was too sympathetic, which I really, really didn't enjoy, to Dennis Nielsen, who murdered like 13 men. So I wanted something that was the opposite of that. And this is basically it. Vincent Bulgozzi hates everyone. He hates the Manson family. He hates Charles Manson. He hates the police who worked on it because he thinks they're all incompetent. He hates the other lawyers, the defense team. He hates everyone, and I kind of love it. It's a really, really interesting listen. I wouldn't say it's fun, but it's definitely interesting. I have about 6 hours left, so I am going to listen, I think, while I am working, and then again while I'm knitting. I'm really, really looking forward to sort of seeing this through and seeing how it all ends, because of course I know the story of Charles Manson and the Manson family, but I think a lot of those nitty-gritty details I don't have, but I am getting now. So moving on to other books that I would like to start and read in the month of December, I have a few buddy reads. So the first is Words of Radiance by Brandon Sanderson. I had brought this downstairs one day and my mom was like shocked at how long this is. It's not the longest of his Stormlight Archive books. They just started using much thinner paper. So this is what, 10,000, oh my god, 1,080 pages. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to this. So I am going to be buddy reading this with Amber from Books of Amber, who is my #1 buddy reading buddy. We read a lot of stuff together, and I'm really looking forward to this. This will be a reread for me. I read it when it first came out in like the first 2 days that it was out, which was like 2012, I think. And it'll be her first time, I believe. And then we are hopefully going to be buddy reading Oathbringer and Rhythm of War coming up, probably spaced out quite a bit because these are huge books, but I'm really looking forward to this. I remember really enjoying this book, and I remember it basically being completely action-packed from start to finish, whereas The Way of Kings, the first book, definitely builds up a lot because there's so much setup that needs to be done. So this is basically wall-to-wall action. I remembered really enjoying this, and I'm really looking forward to it so that I can go ahead and read the next 2 books for the first time. The next book that I have is probably going to be the one that I focus on once I finish The Seep and Helter Skelter, because this is our Space Sirens book club pick for December. We are going to be doing our live show, I think, on the 5th. Don't take my word for it. I will link information down below if you want to participate in the live show, if you want to watch along. It'll be really fun. This is Black Sun by Rebecca Rohnhorse. I'm really looking forward to this. I don't have a lot of time to read it, but I think it'll be super doable because I've read the first chapter and it's pretty graphic, but it is really interesting. So this is one of those books that has a super, super vague description, which I love, but isn't really helpful for me telling you guys what the book is about. So again, links to all of these will be down below. You can go ahead and check them out. But basically we follow a character who is on a ship bound for Tova, which is this holy city where the winter solstice is usually a time for celebration. However, this year there is going to be a solar eclipse, which predicts kind of, or is prophesized to bring about destruction and unbalancing of the world. So we follow this character who is on a ship to Tova, and it says here that the passenger, this character, is described as harmless. He's a young man, blind, scarred, and cloaked in destiny. However, a man described as harmless usually ends up being a villain It sounds amazing. I think this first chapter is that character, that sort of villainous character, and their sort of backstory, and it's really, really interesting. I think we're getting cults in this book, which, as you can tell from the fact that I'm reading Helter, Skelter, is something that I find really interesting. And I've heard that this is amazing, really, really interesting. So I'm very much looking forward to this. I've never read any of her books before, but I think that this is going to be a really, really good one. Next up, I have a review copy for Hollow Empire by Sam Hawke, which I'm so excited for. It's gonna be so good. This is one of my most anticipated releases of the year, and I am super pumped for this because City of Lies, which is her previous book, was one of my favorite books from last year, and it's gonna be so good. So excited. So basically, City of Lies takes place in this particular city that is ruled by a chancellor, and the poison taster for the chancellor is the uncle of our two main characters, Javon and Kalina. Now, Javon is next in line to become the poison tester or proofer for the chancellor's son and heir, who also happens to be his best friend, and Kalina was the one who is going to become the proofer, but she has a chronic illness and she was deemed too weak to actually take on this job. So one day, it turns out that the chancellor and their uncle are both killed by poison, an unidentifiable poison none of them have ever seen. Obviously, their uncle is very seasoned with this sort of thing. He didn't detect it. So we have that mystery, but we also, at the same time, have an army marching in the gates, and they are going to put the city under siege. So the question is, who's this army and who do they belong to? And also, who killed the chancellor and their uncle? This book switches back and forth in perspective between Jovan and Kalina, and it has the most amazing, like, heart-pounding ending. So I'm really looking forward to Hollow Empire, which I believe takes place about 5 years later. I don't know a huge amount about the plot so far, and I worry that it might be a little bit spoilery, so I'm not going to talk about it here. But again, description down below. And yeah, I'm really excited for this. I think she's a fabulous author. A really, really talented author. City of Lies feels like a book that was written by a veteran fantasy author, someone who's been writing and publishing for years, but it was her debut novel, so I have very high hopes for Hollow Empire. So the next book is one that I have heard a ton about, and I've heard is amazing, but actually I know very, very little about, and honestly, like, looking up plot summaries on my phone just isn't doing me any good. So this is Kushil's Dart by Jacqueline Carey. I am going to be reading this as part of a sort of read-along for this book that takes place in December, which is organized by my friend Asha, who is a big, big fan. So there are a few of us who are going to be participating, and I will go ahead and link her tweet talking about this read-along. It's taking place later on in December, down below, so you can check it out. If you're interested in reading this with us, you absolutely should. I have a feeling it's going to take place on Twitter, so you don't need to, like, have a YouTube channel or anything to participate. Please, if you want to read this, please, please, please read it with us. But this is basically a kind of classic of fantasy, and it's much beloved. It does have a lot of content warnings that go with it that I can't list off the top of my head because I've never read this book, but Asha does talk about that a little bit. So again, I'll link all of that down below. But I do know that we follow this character from birth, and she's born with a mote in her eye, which makes her appear inappropriate for service as a religious courtesan, but it's revealed that this is a sign that she's basically a sexual masochist and takes sexual pleasure from pain. Her bond is purchased by a nobleman who does train her as a courtesan and discovers a plot against her homeland, which she has the chance to interrupt. That's literally all it says here. I do know that people have said if you're kind of put off by sex and erotica in books, this may not be the one for you, but I've also heard people say that if you are put off by that sort of thing, to still give this a try if it sounds like an interesting book to you, because apparently it's absolutely fabulous. I personally have no problems with sex in books. I have been reading romance novels since I was like 11, so it does not bother me whatsoever. But yeah, this looks like it's going to be a really interesting one. Asha has been trying to get me to read this for ages. I have her copy on my shelf at home. I'm going to be buying my own for this, and I'm really looking forward to it. And then other than that, I I don't really have anything else to add to my TBR. However, I am going to be going ahead and picking some shorter stuff out of the giant stack, which is just off screen, of books that I brought with me for lockdown at my parents' house. You can check out my November TBR if you want to see what those are. I'm thinking that maybe I will pick up maybe some Karen M. McManus with Two Can Keep a Secret and One of Us is Next, because I really enjoyed One of Us is Lying, which is a YA crime book. I might pick up, oh, I don't know, maybe Laura Purcell and The Shape of Darkness, which comes out in January. I might pick up some fantasy. I don't really know, but I want to leave some space in my TBR to go ahead and either get started on books for next year, because it turns out that I have a lot of stuff for January and for February, which I'll talk about in my book haul that has just come in. And I just kind of want to catch up and read stuff that I really want to read and enjoy. I do have some stuff on my TBR that is stuff I'm really looking forward to, like The Burning God, that is quite anxiety inducing, like The Burning God. So maybe I'll take the chance to read some of those things in December. We'll see. I think that December is going to be even more of a mood reading month than usual, because I'm literally just going to be going day by day, seeing what I can deal with and what I can handle, and we'll go from there. So that is it for my December TBR. I'm really looking forward to all of the reading that I'm going to be doing this month. I think it's going to be an amazing month, and I'm really hoping to smash my target for my Goodreads challenge, which I've technically already surpassed, which is pretty cool. So yeah, I would love to hear in the comments below if you've read any of these books, or if you have anything in particular that you are planning on reading for the month of December. I post bookish content to this channel fairly frequently, so go ahead and hit subscribe, check back soon, and I will see you next time.